I think it's time to talk about one of my favorite tropes of all time. You might be thinking, what's your favorite trope? Because I talk about so many different tropes. We've talked about the two brother trope, which I really like, and I still haven't done a recommendation video for that. We've talked about childhood friends to lovers, but in this video I'm gonna give you some of my favorite enemies to lover recommendations, and then I'm also gonna call out one book that has been marketed as an enemies to lover and it is not an enemies to lover. Starting with, I will say this is a booktok classic. Honestly, everyone has talked about this book at some point if they're in this community, and I'm talking about The Love Hypothesis. So this is like academic rivals to lovers, pretty much enemies to lovers. I do feel like this is one of those books that maybe they were never actually hardcore enemies, but they kind of were though. They were academic rivals, so I'll give them that was right. So this book is about Olive and Adam. Olive is a PhD candidate. She doesn't believe in romantic relationships, and then she starts fake dating her professor, one of the ex-professors of the school named Adam, and there's a lot of things that kind of come up as a result of their fake dating relationship. And this is one of those books that definitely got me into the trope and the romance genre when I first started reading, so this is a good one to get you started. We've got another Emily Henry classic. This is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Why did I read the author's name? This is my all-time favorite romance book, and it's also just kind of like fiction, and it has a lot of really good lessons, and I was obsessed with this book when I first read it. This is that one book that kind of like opened the door for me wanting to be in this industry. Not in this industry, well, kind of in the book community. Once I read this book, I was just obsessed. So August and I forget her name. Augustus and January, they have known each other since college. Then she moves into this lake house that her dad that just passed away left her, and she then finds out that he lives right next door. And there's a lot of like the whole neighbor trope, and also they're tired of writing the genre. They're both authors, writers, and they're kind of tired of writing. He writes like I think fiction, like kind of creepy books. He writes romance books, and they kind of make a pact to like switch genre, and they help each other like research for writing a book in a different genre. And then it also kind of has like a small town romance feel to it. This is just the greatest enemies to lovers, one of the greatest ones, and I'm obsessed. God, this one wasn't like a 5-star read for me or anything like that, but it was cute, and it was definitely enemies to lovers in a sense. If you've watched the movie, I'm gonna put a picture of the cover over here because I don't remember the name of the movie. It's with Katherine Heigl and Josh, I don't know how to say his last name, but it's a movie where their friends pass away and their baby's left, and they have to kind of like parent this child and co-parent and live together. It's almost the exact same thing, and it's very cute. It was really well done. It was really funny. It was one of those books that it actually, the banter of like the whole enemies to lovers made me kind of like laugh a little bit. So I do recommend this one. It's super cute, and you do get the whole enemies to lovers, I hate you banter situation going on. Booktok classic, that is The Young Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren can do no wrong with her tropes. This book, I know a lot of people have like a love-hate relationship with it. It's not a Christina Lauren favorite to this day, I'll say. So this is about Olive. She is in her sister's wedding, and then her and this guy that hate each other. This guy's like the best friend or the brother of the other guy, I don't remember. But they are the only ones who end up not eating off of the buffet because they don't like seafood. So they're the only ones who don't get food poisoning. There is a trip to Hawaii up for grabs, and they decide to go in it. And there's a lot of really good banter in this book, I will say. I personally really enjoy it, but it's definitely one of those books that I feel like if I read it again, I will probably rate it a little bit lower because I've read so many books at this point. But it is a very cute enemies to lovers, and it does do the trope justice. I want to do a Kindle edition enemies to lovers because in this one I'm just going to talk about the physical books. This is my all-time favorite trope, and if you have any other recommendations for this trope, I beg of you, please include them in the comments because it's a trope that I'm still looking for books to read, and I feel like they don't come as easy. The book that has been marketed as an enemy to lovers book, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that is wrong. This is probably my least favorite enemy to lovers book ever, and then it's also my least favorite Emily Henry book. I'm really excited for Happy Place. I've heard there's a lot of really important topics get talked about in that book. This one, here's the thing, it's called Book Lovers. It says that it's about people who love books. Didn't get that. I also didn't get, the banter was good, but it wasn't enemies to lovers banter, so yeah. But I know a lot of people be this an enemies to lovers book and really like the banter, so if you think you can get into it, then go ahead and read it. It's about Nora Stevens and I forget his name, Charlie Lastra. They are kind of like rivals in the industry, and then she goes to a small town because her sister has been begging her to go, and there she finds out that that's where he's from basically. Then it kind of strikes up a whole series of events that I'm not gonna get into because I don't want to spoil the book for you, but it is cute. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. It's not one of those books that I'm gonna be recommending a lot, but I was like really waiting for it, and once it came out it did kind of disappoint me, so we'll go ahead and say that. Now, I love this book. It gets a lot of hate to this day, I've heard. I read this book in a road trip. It was like a 10-hour road trip, and I ate this up. It was amazing. I'm still to read another Sally Thorne book. This one was so good. So this is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. They are workplace enemies, and it is one of those books that, I mean, to be fair, it's probably not like a hardcore enemies to lovers book, but it does kind of make you believe that throughout the book up until there's a big reveal. The banter in this book is just so great, and then the really sweet moments are extra sweet, and because the banter is so good, I personally really enjoyed this book. Maybe it's one of those books that if I reread it, I wouldn't rate it as high, but when I first read it, it did kind of get me hooked in this trope. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was the second book, enemies to lovers book, that I ever read. I'm obsessed. And we have the last book in the kind of romance situation. This is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. You might be thinking this is not appropriate for this book recommendations video because it's technically not really. Here's the thing, this is a very unconventional romance book because they're already engaged to be married, but they do really hate each other for a very big portion of the book, constantly like doing pranks against each other and kind of ruining things for each other, and they do really, the banter, it's probably, this was a 5-star for me, okay? This was one of the last romance books that I have enjoyed in the past like 3 months, and if you know of a book that's similar to this one, please recommend it to me because I've been craving something like this book. I ate this book up in like 2 days, and it was amazing. So they're engaged to be married, but they're pretty much tired. They don't want to get married, and they're like trying to make each other back out of the deal of getting married pretty much. So they do all kinds of things to make each other be the one who calls the marriage. And I know this doesn't sound fun when I'm explaining it, but if you actually read the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. I think a lot of people can vouch for this book. It doesn't get as much hype as a lot of the books that I mentioned here, but it should. Enter kind of like the fantasy enemies to lovers situation, and let me tell you something. There's not a genre of book that does enemies to lovers like fantasy books do. If you don't like fantasy books, I beg of you, please read an enemies to lovers fantasy / romance book. It will change your mind about the entire genre, I swear. I'm gonna talk about the second and third book of the Shatter Me series. If you know, you know, Aaron Warner, hands down probably one of my favorite book boyfriends of all time. This is not a spoiler, honestly. At this point I feel like if you haven't read Shatter Me, you have heard him getting mentioned. So the first book does kind of throw you off. Hold off, the first book is not anything great or out of this world. Please wait until book number 2 and then book number 3, and it will change your entire perspective about this series. This series was so well done. I love her writing style. I love that she has really short chapters and a lot of like extra content that just kind of makes this book even shorter. It's a kind of a longer series. I think I'm in book number 4 or 5 right now. So this is a series about a girl that if you touch her, you will die. And It's like a dystopian novel situation where like the world is pretty much ending and you're trying to pretty much salvage whatever's left, people that are left. It just did the romance and the enemies to lovers such justice. I feel like this is one of those fantasy series that did the trope the biggest justice ever, because it's one of the best enemies to lovers fantasy that I've ever read. Now here's the thing, I've been in the book community for a while, but I've always gotten confused as if dystopian, does that fall into fantasy category or is it just like its own category? Let me know in the comments. Now drum roll please. There's a fantasy book that will make you eat up the enemies to lover trope. It's gonna be A Core of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series, and I have not read a book that gave me this feeling in a very long time, to the point where like after reading this I started the third book of ACOTAR and I'm still stuck in it because I can't get over this book. I can't move on from this storyline. It is great. I'm not gonna go into detail explaining what ACOTAR is about. Maybe I should. I feel like there might still be like a few of you out there who have never heard about this series. So ACOTAR is pretty much, see, explaining this series has always been a challenge for me. Pretty much it's about fays. It's like they're fairies. They're like this kind of humanoid type of, I don't want to call them things, but I don't want to go into detail. I feel like anything I say is going to be a spoiler for this series if you haven't read it. But if you like enemies to lovers, please read this book first. Of course, read A Core of Thorns and Roses, then read this one and you will not regret it. This book changed my life and my perspective about fantasy, and this was the book that got me into fantasy hardcore. So this is a duology at the moment, and then there's gonna be a third book, I think. Okay. I heard a lot of people talk about the Caribou series and there's a lot of mixed reviews, and I was like, I don't really want to read that because I don't want it to put me in a reading slump. But then a lot of people were raving about this duology, Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Ever After, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get it, even like hardcovers, and I don't really like to buy those kinds of books. Let me tell you, I am still to finish another book after finishing this duology, which apparently is not a duology anymore. This does the enemies to lovers justice, but it's a very unconventional enemies to lovers. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. I can't say what it's about. You just have to trust me on this one. I'm not gonna say what it's about. I went into it completely blind. I didn't know what the books were about. Go into it blindly and let me know what you think. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. Let me know if you like book recommendation videos like this, because this is something that I can definitely do more than like reading vlogs at the moment because I'm very busy. We have a long weekend coming up and I think I'm gonna do a reading vlog. But I work a full-time job, if you guys don't know, and I'm always super busy. Reading vlogs are kind of really hard to do. I am one though that I need to start kind of like putting pieces together, but I promise there's a lot of good videos coming this year. And if you subscribe, I'll be more motivated to post more on here. But with that being said, we've come to the end of this video. Let me know what enemies to lovers books is your favorite, and let me know if you agree with some of my opinions on these books. And remember to be kind in the comments. Everyone's entitled to feel about a book however they want to feel about a book. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go ahead and end this up because I'm talking too much. Bye guys.